Hello, welcome back to the module instructions for the final chapter of this course. This module is for module 15 and will focus on competition and cooperation. You will be reading chapter 13 and reviewing your chapter 13 PowerPoints. You will also be completing a Unit 4 video response. You will be completing your Module 15 discussion board and peer responses. Finally, you will be taking your Module 15 quiz. Please be sure to take note of key concepts on the quiz so that you can use that as a way to build your preparation for Unit 4 exam. If you have any questions or concerns, please email me. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about cooperation and competition before I finish this video. And I want to start off by saying that we live in a very competitive culture in the United States. The United States is considered an individualistic country, meaning that there's a focus in mainstream values and behaviors on individual accomplishments. Now, this might be slightly different for some of us who come from cultural groups that emphasize a more collectivistic worldview, where we're looking at building relationships and interconnectivity with others. Many of us are navigating multiple spaces of influence when maybe we are in school expecting to be competitive and individualistic, yet at home or in our communities, we're working more on connectivity and collectivism. The field of social psychology has really emphasized this individualistic cultural framework. And a lot of the work around competition and cooperation in groups is based on that value. It's important to take that into consideration. It's important to note that some of this work might not necessarily hold up in terms of cultural validity in other spaces around the world, or just even around communities in the United States. I did want to talk about one particular experiment that I always found fascinating as a student of psychology, and that's the Sharif Robbers Cave experiment. So what these social psychologists did is they set up these groups of young boys to attend a outdoors type of camp. And what they did in the early days of it was to create group identity within the specific groups. And then they caused the groups to come into conflict with each other so that they could really develop these two competitive groups of young boys. And they wanted to finish the study by bringing the two groups back together to develop cooperation. And what they found was it was nearly impossible to get the kids to work together after they had formed these very isolated competitive groups. And you may have those experiences in your life where you find that it's really hard to stop competing with people that you've competed with in the past. And that was the case. And what the research found was that the only way that they could break down these two very competitive, isolated groups was to make it so that neither group could potentially solve a problem without cooperation from the other group. And we call that superordinate goals. What this means is that if we don't require the help of somebody outside of our very competitive group, we're most likely not going to be able to develop cooperative skills. And this has been used now in looking at finding resolutions to conflict within the workplace, conflict within governments. So it's really powerful to focus in on these superordinate goals to help people come together and work together. And you could think about the real world implications of something like this. For example, the notion of global climate change. If we don't all realize that protecting the environment is something that benefits our group as well as other groups, then we might not necessarily buy into the idea of being more environmentally conscious. Okay, so that's the last chapter. We're going to transition into our final module soon. If you, again, have any questions or concerns, please reach me. Otherwise, I will see you back in the final module of the course.